good, Rick.
Okay. All right. Very good.
There we are.
We were just getting ready. Are you ready, Sean?
I think so.
Okay. My phone.
One moment here. Stop trying to connect from this device. Okay, sorry about that. I was having speaker issues on my end. Looks like we're good to go. How far did we get? Did we start it all?
No, we didn't start, Sean.
Okay, well then, excuse me for my tardiness, technical issues. Welcome to the Lancaster County Board of Commissioners Zoom meeting for Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. I am your chair and Commissioner Sean Flowerday. With me is Commissioner and Vice Chair Rick Vest, and Commissioner Roma Amundsen, Commissioner Deb Shore, and Commissioner Krista Yoka. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, please begin.
Copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is located on the wall at the rear of the hearing room. Additionally, a copy of our written material to be discussed at today's open meeting is available in room 112. The material can also be viewed on the county's website at lancaster.ne.gov. Agenda item 1 are minutes. Approve the minutes of the Board of Commissioners meeting held on Tuesday, May 26, 2020.
I will move approval.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Shore,
Yes.
Emerson,
I think we've lost Roma.
Yocum,
Yes.
Beth,
Yes.
Flowerday.
Yes.
Motion carries 4-0. Next are claims or approval of all claims processed through June 2nd, 2020.
Move approval of the claims.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Best,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundsen,
Yes.
Yoke,
Yes.
Flowerday.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Next is number 3, consent items. These are business items that are expected to be adopted without dissent. Any individual item may be removed for special discussion and consideration by a commissioner or by any member of the public without prior notice. Unless there's an exception, these items will be approved as one with a single vote of the Board of Commissioners. These items are approval of grant contracts funded by the Joint Budget Committee for the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021 with the following. The Bridge Behavioral Health for the Civil Protective Custody Program in the amount of $200,000. Fresh Start for the Transitional Program in the amount of $20,000. Matt Talbot Kitchen and Outreach for the Hunger Relief Program in the amount of $12,938. Grant contracts funded by the Juvenile Justice Prevention Funds for the period of July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2021 with the following. Centerpoint for the Adolescent DBT IOP Program in the amount of $60,000. YMCA of Lincoln for the Teen Night Program in the amount of $16,902. Amendments to the following county contracts. C-15-288 with D&D Communications for county GPS fleet software. C-18-443 with Sid Tool Company, Inc. Doing business as MSC for Industrial Supply Company for its facilities, maintenance, and repair operations and industrial supplies. C-17-523 with Lincoln Journal SAR for publishing legal notices and all other verbiage necessary to conduct City County Public Building Commission business. Amendments to the following county contracts for annual service, weed abatement, mowing for the county weed authority. This includes C-19-441 with Beatrice Lawn Care, Inc., C-19-442 with Lee's Lawn Maintenance, and C-19-443 with Mr. Yards and More LLC. Change order number 4 to county contract C-19-86 with Pavers Inc. for the damage and reset of cable guardrail posts with 10% markup per project contract documents for an increase of $825. Third amendment to county contract C-17-422 with the Board of Regents of the University of Nebraska on behalf of the University of Nebraska Lincoln and its Children's Justice Clinic at the University of Nebraska for the representation of indigent juveniles in the separate juvenile court of Lancaster County. The amendment renews the contract from July 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2023. Right-of-way contract with James R. and Joyce A. George trustee, Joyce A. George Revocable Trust, Southwest 98th Street and West Van Dorn Street in amount of $649. Setting a public hearing on Tuesday, June 9, 2020 to amend the Bridge and Special Road Fund.
Move approval of the consent items?
I will second that.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Yocum,
Yes.
Best,
Yes.
Shore. Shore.
Yes.
Hamilton.
Yes. Yes.
Flowerday.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Next is new business. 4A is a resolution in a matter of transferring appropriations from the general fund miscellaneous budget to various general fund agencies. The amount to be transferred is $961,245.
All right, good morning, County Board. Dennis Meyer, Budget and Fiscal Director. This resolution here today is just kind of one of the last few steps as we go to close out our fiscal year, and which is June 30th. You know, one of the items that you just took action on was setting a public hearing for next Tuesday. That's another piece of it. This piece here is just for the general fund. So as we project out, we do need to transfer $961,245 in between the departments within the general fund. The overall budget for the general fund is not changing. It's just kind of moving the pieces to the different departments to make sure each department is within the allowable budget. So it's just kind of trying to clean up general fund items.
I move approval.
I will second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Hamilton,
Yeah, and you broke up. Nobody could hear you there. We heard you said something, but we couldn't tell what name.
Amundson,
Yes.
Yocum,
Yes.
Best,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Flowerday.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. B is a contract with Pavers Inc. for asphalt and resurfacing. The work is to be completed on or before October 15, 2020. The cost of the county is $3,364,576.83.
Move approval?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Yocum,
Yes.
Best,
Yes.
Flowerday.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. C is a contract with M.E. Collins Contracting Company, Inc. for unit price shotcrete application for Lancaster County. The contract is for 1 year with the option to renew for one additional 1 year term. The cost of county is not to exceed $300,000.
And as well.
I move approval.
Second. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Vest,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Yocum,
Yes.
Flowerday.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. D is a right-of-way entry and maintenance agreement with Nebraska Game and Parks Commission for Wagon Train Lake State Recreation Area and Wildlife Management Area. There is no cost to the county.
Move approval.
Move approval.
Second.
Do we
We
need a
have-
second if we have three motions?
We have many
Good point,
motions.
Krista.
And 1 second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, please call the roll.
Yocum,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Flowerday.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. 4E is a space rental agreement with IBEW LU 265 Banquet Hall for meeting space in conjunction with referee hearings for June 16th, 2020 to July 17th, 2020.
Move
Move
approval.
approval.
Second?
Let's hope we don't need to use it.
Yes.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Amundson,
Yes.
Yocum,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Flowerday.
Yes.
Motion carries 5-0. Number 5 is an update on COVID-19 on Lancaster County response. 5A is public building entrance screenings.
Okay, who wants to start here?
There was a meeting yesterday morning and I was invited, but I was distracted and was unable to attend. I did speak with Captain Whitty and he felt like he had come to a satisfactory agreement with Pat and thought they had a plan, but we didn't go into any details on what he thought that plan would be. With Pat and thought they had a plan, but we didn't go into any details on what he thought that plan would be.
We mentioned to him at the time that we had this on the agenda and to discuss, but he, you remember, Rick?
I remember it, you mentioning it, but I don't remember his response, Deb.
Okay.
Remember you mentioning it, but I don't.
We're getting a lot of background noise from somebody and I can't figure out who, but I'm struggling to hear. Well, I mean, fundamentally, this was an issue, my understanding, between the health department and the sheriff's office. Sheriff Wagner, do you want to chime in on this or?
I sure can. I'm getting the same, I'm getting the double feedback that you all are too. It's, so I think. Well, let me just say, we have a public health nurse at our front door today, starting this morning, and we're taking temperatures of everybody that comes into the building. That was an agreement with Pat Lopez yesterday and Captain Whitty. And I think it's going to work out real well, and then we'll see how that goes from here. But that's the current what we're doing.
Okay, well then, is the matter resolved then, at least for the Hall of Justice?
I'm sorry.
So the matter is then resolved for the Hall of Justice, at least for the time being? Hey, Jamie, is there anything we can do about that? Do we have any idea where that's coming from?
Sorry, guys, I was on a phone call. What's the question?
We're getting a lot of background noise from somewhere.
Okay, let me,
Okay, you know what? I apologize. That was me. Jamie just privately chatted with me, and I was watching the board meeting on YouTube, and then I opened the Zoom.
You.
okay.
My apologies.
Easy
Sure.
mistake to make. We got it.
What was your last question, Sean?
So then, at least for the Hall of Justice, the matter's resolved. Is that correct? At least for the
Yes.
time being?
Yes.
I mean, I'm satisfied with that outcome. We haven't hired any new staff. Public health nurse out there is a good thing as far as I'm concerned.
Now, I don't think, I'm not sure how long having a public health nurse here is going to last. We may have to contract with a private health provider, but I think the directed health measure indicates that temperature should be taken and a screening should be done on everybody coming into the building. So for right now, it's a public health nurse, but that may not be long term, and we may have to look at hiring a service to handle that. At least until we get our machine in that can take those temperatures sort of remotely.
Right. Did Director Lopez indicate how long that this nurse would be able to be there?
I don't know the answer to that question.
Okay. All right, we can follow up with her offline.
Terry, does your security team there, do they normally monitor the number of people coming into the building? I guess I'm interested in seeing how quickly or how slowly it ramps up.
Just as an example, I checked on that this morning. Let's see, last week and, during kind of the shutdown, we were averaging about 200 employees a day coming through the front door. Most of those were employees of the various courts or clerk's offices. Yesterday, we had about 700 come through. Our normal, when all the courts are up and running, is about 2,000. So it's increased over last week. It's not to what our normal levels would be.
Okay, but you do document that day to day.
We do. Any other questions or?
I don't have anything else. Anybody else?
Nope. This next item.
Okay. Follow up on temperature screening policy. Do we want to have a broader conversation with this? Can I invite the county attorney staff to jump in on this one?
Yeah, so pretty much since we just have a couple final questions for you guys to get this finalized. There is a personnel policy board meeting on Thursday. So if I get this to Doug McDaniel later today, we can get on that agenda for Thursday. I pretty much just have 2 questions for you, and depending on your answer, I have an extra. So answer wisely. Pretty much, we just need to know whether you're wanting to make the temperature screening mandatory.
This is for staff, correct?
Correct. Yep, for employees. So this is, the temperature screening, and then also for face coverings and masks. And so those are pretty much my 2 questions. Just see whether there was kind of some back and forth about whether you wanted to make them mandatory or not. So I'm wondering, if you want the temperature screening to be mandatory, and then also if you want employees to wear face coverings and masks, and if that is to be mandatory.
Should that be made a condition of employment?
It would be an employee policy that we'd be putting through.
Employment policy, yeah.
I vote yes. If
Yeah,
these
I
were,
would say so.
if these were construction workers, we would say they have to wear a hard hat while on the site. If they're driving, for county business, we tell them they have to wear a seatbelt. I don't see how this is different. Obviously, it's shorter term. I'm not intending on saying everyone has to wear a mask in perpetuity, but yeah, for the time being, yeah. So I say yes. Well, and then I'm not, obviously, we're talking temperature screenings right now, not masks, but I'm saying.
Is this, couple questions, Jen. This would be two different policies because, we might be able to remove the temperature screening portion earlier, but still need to retain the mask portion in place. So I'd like to have that flexibility that that they aren't tied together.
So we do have it drafted as one, but just because it's one doesn't mean we can't make changes within it. So we can work through this. This is pretty much just a policy and we've titled it Workplace Response to COVID-19.
Mm-hmm.
So we can update it and make changes throughout for whatever, as it comes up.
So we could if we were to, let's say, remove the mandatory temperature screening, would that have to go back to Personnel Policy Board, or do we have the authority just to revoke that component of the policy?
I believe that we would have to take it. I believe any changes would have to go back through the Personnel Policy Board.
I just see us wearing masks for a very long time, but I'm not sure that we'll be, a necessity of mandatory temperature screenings, but that's just my thought.
Okay, yeah.
Well, that's funny because I see it almost in the reverse. I think we'll be doing temperature screenings for a long time, but we might relax the mask policy after a few months. So it's
okay,
I mean,
well,
it's neither here nor there.
The point is
but
we could do,
yeah. But I agree.
Either way, yeah.
Okay, so oh, sorry, Dave, did you want to say something?
I just want to point out that the way Jen's talking about it, it would be the same procedure regardless whether we would go and amend the policy to take out one or the other, or if we had separate policies, they all would go back through Personnel Policy Board if we were to remove one policy or the other. So there's really no extra procedure that's built in with the way Jen's proposing it.
Okay, so by all the nods, it seemed like you guys wanted to go forward with having temperature screening be mandatory.
Yes.
Okay, so because you answered that way, I have an additional question for you. Pretty much we have been basing everything off of CDC guidance. Of course, we've been taking direction from the health department as well, but it kind of helps to utilize the CDC resources that are out there. Part of that, they kind of have certain ways of doing the temperature screening, and part of that is relying on PPE. So I know you guys have already done the thermometers, and I think you guys have decided to provide face masks. The CDC kind of goes into a little bit more for the person who's actually taking the temperature. So the employee would wear a face mask, and the CDC suggests that the temperature screener wears a face mask, an eye protection, or a face shield, and then gloves. And so like I said, we've been trying to follow CDC guidance, but if you guys didn't want to provide all that PPE, we didn't want to require it. So that's my other question is, what PPE would you like to provide so we can get that hammered out?
So it's gloves, a face mask or face shield, and what else?
So it's either a face mask and eye protection, or an entire face shield, which is kind of both the face mask and eye protection, and then gloves.
So aren't those things position specific? Not everyone needs all of those. And where we have plexiglass, they wouldn't need face shields. They would still need masks for their coworkers, right?
So this is for the actual temperature taking. So when the employee comes in and they're scanning their forehead, this would be for the person who's having to interact with each of the employees.
Gotcha.
Right. I guess my thought that we should have it available should they want to use that, but I'm not sure that, every time, an employee walks in, that this official temperature taker for each department has to do, if they want to do all that, but I'm not sure I want to mandate that. I don't know. That's kind of my thought. Have it available for them.
I think it would be okay to have it available.
Okay. Yep. I will do that then. I'll put that in there.
Yeah, because as Krista said, it's almost dependent upon the position, the job.
And so the way we've written this is so directors can kind of come up with their own method of doing this. So that would essentially be up to them. We just didn't want to say, you guys will provide a face shield or, eye protection if you weren't. So that's kind of the purpose for asking that question. So I'll reach out and I'll start getting that part figured out. My last question is then about the face coverings, if you guys want to make those mandatory in the policy.
Now, what are you talking about? The shields or the mask?
So this would be a face mask or cloth face covering. There are some reasons throughout the policy that we've put in based on CDC guidance and working with the health department where a face mask wouldn't be needed. Say if I'm in my office by myself, like I am right now, I wouldn't need to be wearing one. There's certain situations that kind of go into more detail of when a face mask should and should not be worn.
If they leave their office and they're going into an area where there is public, I would think that they would need to wear a mask. If they're working in their own office and there's no one else in there, I would think that they don't need to have a mask. If they're in their own office with another person talking, at least if they can maintain the social distancing. Those are some of my thoughts on that.
Yeah, and before this, so this will go to the Personnel Policy Board, and then you guys will be able to see the language that kind of talks about when it's needed, when it's not, how a face covering should, how it needs to be. I think it's like 3 layers of fabric or 2 layers. It goes into more detail. This is just more whether you guys want to require it, make it mandatory.
I say yes. It makes sense to me, and I think the provisions that Roma laid out, which it sounds like that's pretty much what's in there, makes sense. So, yeah,
I agree.
Also, people operating equipment, out in the field, alone.
Yeah, if Brent Meyer has staff working in a truck by themselves out in the field, I'm not going to make them wear a mask, but
No,
they might want to just for pollen and stuff. But,
Yeah, you'll see there is language specifically about being in their own truck cab or equipment cab, things like that. Okay, well so I'll move forward with that and I will get that to Doug McDaniel later today. And we'll get that on the Personnel Policy Board for Thursday and then it'll be headed your way.
Okay.
Okay, that's all I had for you on this.
Sounds good. Anything else on temperature screening policy, or can we move down to announcements?
how about announcements?
Mr. Clerk, please continue.
The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners will hold budget hearings on Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020 at 10 a.m. or immediately following the Board of Equalization meeting via Zoom. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners will hold a staff meeting via Zoom on Thursday, June 4th, 2020 at 8:30 a.m. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners will hold its next regular meeting on Tuesday, June 9th, 2020 at 9 a.m. via Zoom. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners will hold budget hearings on Tuesday, June 9th, 2020 at 10 a.m. or immediately following the Board of Commissioners meeting via Zoom. County Commissioners can be reached at 402-441-7447 or commission@lancaster.ne.gov. The Lancaster County Board of Commissioners meeting is broadcast live on Link TV City. For the rebroadcast schedule, visit lincoln.ne.gov. Meetings are also streamed live on Link TV and can be viewed on YouTube.
I move we adjourn.
Second. We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Yocum,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Flowerday.
Yes,
Motion carries 5-0.
we are adjourned. It's 9:41 right now. We are scheduled to come back for the budget meeting at 10 a.m.
We have
BOE.
You do have the BOE.
Do we have it? We do have it. Look at that. Well, let's go right into BOE then.
Copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act is located on walkthrough of the hearing room. Additionally, a copy of all written material to be discussed at today's open meeting is available in room 112. The material can also be viewed on the county's website at lancaster.ne.gov. Agenda item 1 are minutes. Approval of the minutes of Board of Equalization meeting held on Tuesday, May 19th, 2020.
Move approval.
Approval. Second.
Move it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Yocum,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Flowerday.
Yes,
Motion carries 5-0. Next is number 2, additions and deductions to the tax assessment rolls.
I will move approval of the additions and deductions.
Second?
we have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Vest,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Yocum,
Yes.
Flowerday.
Yes,
Motion carries 5-0. Number 3 is a public hearing. This is for motor vehicle tax exemption applications. This includes Indian Hills Community Church, Christ United Methodist Church, Christian Retirement Homes doing business as Eastmont Towers, CHI Health, St. Monica's Home, and Madonna Rehabilitation Hospital.
okay, we will open the public hearing on the motor vehicle tax exemption applications. Is there anyone present to speak on that? I can't see the room, so if there's someone there, somebody speak up, please.
Nope.
Doesn't look like anybody's present to speak on it. So then I will go ahead and close the public hearing. We'll move down to item 4.
Number 4 is action on motor vehicle tax exemption applications.
Move approval.
Approval of the motor vehicle tax exemption applications.
Second.
We got one camera going. Where's Nate? See, this is why you gotta have.
We have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Yocum,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Amundson,
Yes.
Flowerday.
Yes,
Motion carries 5-0.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
we have a motion and a second for adjournment. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Amundson,
Yes.
Yocum,
Yes.
Vest,
Yes.
Shore,
Yes.
Flowerday.
Yes,
Motion carries 5-0.
we are adjourned. Okay. Now it's 9:45 and we will come back in 15 minutes for the budget hearing. that sounds so cool, ready in the control room.
Yeah.
And then I think about the reality of our situation and, you know, how I'm sitting here at my breakfast bar and it just isn't, it's not near as neat, the reality is, as what that sounds like.
Just checking my audio.
Works great.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, we are back for the Lancaster County Board of Commissioners budget meeting for Tuesday, June 2nd, 2020. Mr. Clerk, would you please read Open Meetings Act announcement thing? Do we have the clerk's office with us? I guess we don't, do we?
Sean, Dan is actually not on this meeting. He never really attends the budget meetings.
Got it. Okay. Well, then I will go ahead and make it. This meeting is subject to the Open Meetings Act. There's a copy of the Nebraska Open Meetings Act located on the wall at the back of the room of room 112 and 113. Additionally, you can find more information about the Nebraska Open Meetings Act at aog.nebraska.gov/open-meetings. That's aog.nebraska.gov/open-meetings. You can also review it in state statute 84-1401 through 84-1414. The first item up on the agenda is approval of the budget meeting minutes from May 19th, 2020. And I've been informed by the clerk staff that actually these meeting minutes have already been approved. So we can move on to item number 2 then. Department budget hearings, Dennis Meyer, Budget and Fiscal Officer. Take it away. I think our first one up is corrections with Brad Johnson.
Right. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm just going to go back out to OpenGov that we've been kind of dealing with. Everybody see my screen?
Yes, Dennis, I do.
Okay, sounds good. So before we hop into this year's budget request, Brad, we've been kind of talking about finishing out the current fiscal year, and the board just took action to for additional appropriations. And Brad, talk to us about what kind of drove your numbers for this current year's budget.
Well, I mean, it was primarily, salary costs with, the additional overtime that we've paid, stays at the hospital, and just, the increases for merit and cost of living, all those things. Just we underestimated. We can't forget that the first 9 months of this year we were in record population numbers. So we had our reserve unit open. There was just, unfortunately, we underestimated what that cost was going to be. And then the other big number in here is our hospitalization cost. We had a pretty good cost as far as having inmates at the hospital. That's always a number that's almost impossible to predict, just because we don't know, who's going to get booked in and what kind of medical concerns they're going to have, who needs to be at the hospital and for how long. So that's the primary driver. I mean, I'll remind you that, we cut 300,000 from our original request from last year as well. So we were hoping that due to the fact that we've had a hard time hiring folks, and that we're not really at our max capacity as far as correctional officers, that maybe we'd see some savings there. But due to the high number of inmates that we had, that really basically translated into more overtime, and we didn't see those savings.
Okay. Okay, Brad, let's go ahead and let's kind of hop into your current year request. And so the corrections request this current year is at about $28.6 million on the expenditure side, which you will see is a little over a 10% increase. There is also revenues that are received out there at the jail, and that's about $773,000, which is about a 3.2% increase. One of the items that I'll just kind of throw out there that's kind of driving the 10.25, and we've talked about this for a little bit now, is just the opening of that new pod, which would include 7 additional correctional officers. So those 7 new correctional officers are at about a $450,000 number. Those are built into these numbers here. So I just kind of want to make sure everybody kind of understands that. So Brad, talk to us about what's driving your budget request this coming year.
Again, you know, a large, my budget is primarily staffing. That is what makes a correctional department run, is it's very staff intensive. We have to have correctional officers, and then, you know, the periphery staff, in order to supervise and maintain the safety and security of this facility. So, you know, of that 10% increase that we're showing here, you know, if we hire those additional 7 correctional officers, 74% of that increase is just staffing costs for cost of living and merit increases, and then this request for an increase in the staffing. You know, and the other 23, there's roughly another 23% of that is basically all the fixed costs, primarily, such as our electric bill, our water bill, medical, you know, food service. You know, you can go down the list of the things that we really don't have much choice on in order to keep this facility running and provide the features that are needed within our correctional facilities. So those 2 things alone is 97% of this budget. The rest of it is, you know, there's some maintenance costs in there. This building is not new anymore, so we're seeing that we're having to repair concrete was one that we worked on this budget year. We're going to have some more that we need to fix. You know, AC units and HVAC, and just equipment within the facility that's starting to need repair or replace. That's, you know, adding to some of that cost too.
Don, could I jump in with a
So
question?
Brad, okay, go ahead.
So you said the majority of it is the 7 new positions. Can you talk to us, and if you've already gone through this, I apologize, I don't remember, how they might be staged in throughout the year?
Well, right now, to be perfectly honest with you, I couldn't hire them if you approved it, right? I mean, I'm allotted 147 correctional officers today, and I only have 136 on board.
Okay.
We've struggled with this for, you know, at least a year or a little more with trying to get folks with our recruitment, and you know, I'm putting it in this year's budget, but you know, to be quite honest with you, I don't know if I could even fill those positions.
Brad, have things improved since at all since the change in how we're doing the classes of hirings? I didn't say that very articulately, but you know what I mean.
I do. I don't know if it's improved. I think we still. It's hard to compare because I don't know how much this COVID things affected us. I think we were making headway, and then this happened, and now, it's really hard to get folks to want in a jail right now.
Yeah,
that makes perfect sense.
Hey, Brad.
Yes.
On some of your numbers, like with your on-call and overtime costs, those have been increasing. My question to you is, if you were fully staffed, would those numbers decrease then? Or is this just kind of a moving in this kind of trend?
No, I think if we were fully staffed, those numbers would most definitely go down. A lot of our overtime and on-call costs are simply to supplement our minimum staffing during a shift when either folks aren't here due to legitimate leave reasons or because of the number of open positions that we have. So if I wasn't covering, out of what I don't know what that is, that's roughly 10 open positions right now. That's 10 less folks that are working overtime.
Okay. So at some point, Brad, we might just need to kind of look and see how we want to try to project out, because if we've got the 7 in there, like you said, does that make sense that we have them in there for the whole year? And if we do, does it make sense that the on-call and overtime is at where it's at, or do we need to kind of come up with a game plan on what really makes sense in our mind so that we can adjust the numbers which way that obviously makes sense to us?
I would agree. I think it'll be somewhat difficult, and to some degree we'll be making a best guess on it because it's kind of hard to pin that formula down. But I mean, we can definitely give it a good shot at it.
Okay, yeah, and I was just I was thinking the other day, and when I was thinking about it, I was like, we're throwing the whole 7 in, but I think we just have to make a game plan and then kind of adjust on whatever game plan we come up with.
I understand.
Brad, I was just wondering, with the reduced numbers that we've seen over the last month to 6 weeks, and maybe this is too early to ask this question, but have you seen a reduction in expenses due to the lower number of inmates?
We certainly have. I mean, our food costs have gone down. We've seen a positive reflection in that. We have, we at the current time we don't have our public lobby open, so that's actually a position that we're not staffing 16 hours a day. Our work release program is not functioning right now, so we're able to reduce another staff member there, and we have been able to shut down, or at least not staff, that reserve unit. I do have a few inmates in there that we are basically using as our female quarantine unit at this point, but we're not staffing it. So I've been able to reduce my minimum requirements on each shift by 3 at this point. So our overtime and our on-call numbers definitely are coming down at this point. Yes.
So, Brad, I know we talk about our DEC numbers each year, and I don't know if we ever really feel like we've got great control of that, but I do see that your DEC numbers are jumping by $180,000 again.
Yes.
I thought these numbers were coming down when we were just, at the DEC meeting, we were just at.
I think
thought that those had come back into line.
the heating and cooling, the number of units we use to heat and cool the building have come down, but I think they
The
increased.
DEC raised their rates, right? Yes. Yep.
The finance part of it, or the demand part that they always up every January, is something that we try and keep ahead of.
So yeah, so I think the rates went up, and then the wasn't there something, I can't remember what.
It's like their finance or their demand charge, but the heating and cooling costs went down, so they think that's supposed to offset, but it really doesn't offset enough.
Hey, Brad.
Yeah.
The medical contract, I think I remember seeing that. Is there a position or two that's being added to the medical side?
We actually added that last year for an additional LMHP. I think it came back up again because it didn't actually get added into our contract with the provider, so we had to go back in and get that contract adjusted. But that number was built in last year.
Okay. On travel side of things, and I don't know if this is with some training or what. How often do you travel outside the state?
Hardly ever. I mean, I think we've had a few minor training sessions that we've gone to over the years. This first one here is and I think we went to this last year. It's basically a what they call correctional fatigue training, and I'm sending folks to become instructors so that we can do this training within our department. But it's essentially training to help folks who work within corrections kind of recognize the stressors and in some cases trauma that occurs over time within this type of environment. It's to help folks recognize that within themselves and provides different coping mechanisms to try and control those issues. So I sent, I think, 2 last year. Who knows with COVID if this is even going to happen, but we'd like to send another 2, and then we can start building training classes here.
Okay. So, Brad, talk to us about what you know about CJIS right now.
I think right now we're in the process of going through an RFP to try and find a company who could rebuild our current CJIS system. There's been a lot of work in the background that's gone on with kind of mapping what our current system is. We're hoping to take that map and find, in best case scenario, find a partner who's interested in rebuilding that for us, for the different agencies involved. And at some point, there's talk about, and we may be able to leverage the consumer part of that or other institutions or departments throughout the country, and hope that maybe we could get a little more favorable expense with that possibility.
Okay. Do you have kind of a timeline in your mind on when this I mean, where we could get to that point. The RFP is out right now.
It is, I think they're building it right now, yes. I don't think it
Okay.
went out yet.
Okay. So I will just kind of remind everybody, I just kind of moved over to our jail savings fund, and our jail savings fund has a balance right now of $587,951 in there. And we have been saving this dollar amount really for this CJIS project, because Brad, what do you have any new number that you know of that would be applied to corrections for the CJIS?
I really don't want to. Those numbers have jumped around so much over the last year and a half. It's kind of. I mean, I think I'm pretty confident that we would spend that amount, if not more, before this is all done. Just for my.
Yeah, and that's. I mean,
be a lot more than that. We may be in the $1 million range for our share.
Actually, if I could just jump in. Can I just jump in? How long have we been working on this CJIS thing?
Probably at least 3 years.
Okay, and how many more years do you actually, does anybody have any idea how long it might continue?
I think we're hoping to have to be done within the next 18 months.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Prices have really, the cost has really gone up to redo that particular program. Okay.
Yeah, I think for the most part, we really need to get through the RFP process so that we can kind of get to the point, because, you know, we're trying to put some aside for the sheriffs. Also, you know, we know that Brad's amount, you know, there's really no way that this 587 is going to cover it. So we're gonna still have to. I think CJIS is going to become one of those items that we're going to need to keep out in front, so that you know, if they are rewriting it, that will give us a little bit of more time on when we would have to make the expenditures. But once they start, there's going to be also a timeline on. We know that it's going to end, and we got to have the money there for it.
Okay, so another question, and have they, maybe this isn't part of the budget discussion, but have they decided to go to an outside company to write it rather than having the IS people write it?
We have it at this point. That's the plan, but you know, it all depends on what the RFP comes back as.
Okay, thank you.
And when is that RFP supposed to close? Maybe we said that and I missed it.
I don't have that information right. I don't remember. I think purchasing's working on getting that, get it out on the streets here as quickly as we can.
Okay, Brad, really last thing from me. I just want to kind of make sure that I'm telling all the directors, just kind of reminding them about the HR payroll stuff coming up. And I've been reminding them that, you know, once we start our training on certain modules, those trainings will happen pretty much about once a month as we're moving to October. And heck, we're already in June right now. So this month we will have some training for the directors and employees that will start up. I know we've been talking over the last, I mean, it's like the CJIS. We've been talking about this for a long time, but I just kind of want to kind of just remind you that we will have training coming up, and we'll really need to get that training out to all employees.
I understand.
Okay.
Going back
County
to
board, any?
Yeah, just one real quick. Going back to 671, I know it's roughly a 10% increase. What is that in? That's about 2 million and what?
2.6.
2.6. Thanks.
Yeah,
that's all I wanted.
Okay, if there isn't anything else, Brad, Brad, thanks for hopping on this morning with us.
Sure. Thanks, guys.
Okay, Rob, you with us here?
With bells on.
Okay, so,
Before you start, Dennis,
yeah, go ahead.
just to make it simple, so we don't have two people talking at once.
I can't hear him.
Hey, Rob?
Yes.
Rob, we're having trouble hearing you. You're like coming in and out. I think try speaking right now.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, it's as long as you're right in the middle, like
Okay.
physically positioned, you're closer to your microphone. When you were leaning over, that's when the mic lost.
How is it now? Is that better?
That's better.
Okay. Just had to change the setting. Scott Gaines will do most of the talking on this because he puts all this stuff together, and rather than me mess things up, I'll let him speak to most of the things, other than I'll jump in if I think he's going crazy. So, Scott, are you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
Yep.
Sorry, Dennis.
So
Go
Scott,
ahead.
Okay, so Scott, let's talk about finishing out your current year budget.
We should be in good shape, Dennis, thanks to some staff vacancies. We'll probably be turning back around $50,000 of unused funds. Still not finalized what all of the furniture for the remodel will end up costing, but based on our best guesses at this point, it'll be around 50,000 that will return unused.
Okay, have you heard any more on your furniture? I mean, is there?
Rob, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe it's supposed to arrive late June.
June 24th is scheduled, and it's supposedly the company is open in manufacturing at this time in Michigan.
So we did visit with Dennis previously about encumbering those funds that were contracted if we aren't able to make that expenditure in this fiscal year. But
okay, so Scott,
it should be coming in on time, and hopefully we'll receive it. Whether we'll actually be able to get it vouchered in this fiscal year or next, I'm not sure, but the amount is a known amount.
Okay.
It won't be this year because they don't do installation till after the 4th of July. So
there you go.
And we're not going to pay them until we have everything done.
Okay. Sounds good. We'll just
so we definitely will have an
sure
encumbrance there of about 150,000 or so.
Okay, sounds good. Okay, let's move on into your current year request. The current year request is sitting at a little over $4.6 million, which is about a 2.56% increase. On the revenue side, the revenues have been increased up to 2.3 million, which is about a 9.5% increase.
And so, I'll tell you, on the revenue, Dennis, I'll just mention that that's a fairly conservative number. We've seen a pretty substantial increases recently, but I didn't want to overstate it. But yeah, we're moving in the right direction as far as revenue goes on the registered deed side.
Okay, because I was going to ask you if I wasn't for sure if anything had really kind of changed that. At this point in time, but what you're saying is it's changed it even to the better.
Yeah, we've got increased activity for sure, and that seems to have been sustained throughout the initial phases of COVID, actually.
So, Scott, is a lot of it just refinancing?
It's just real estate activity, refinancing. Properties are selling, and we've had some high dollar activity as well.
Okay, so Scott, talk to us about your expenditure budget then. What's driving it?
Just like everybody else, personnel costs drive about just under 91% of our costs. You factor in rent and the IS costs, and that's about 97% of our budget. And when I look at it, we have a discretionary budget that's everything else. We can't control people, rent, and IS. So we did. Our personnel costs are going to increase about 2.8%. So we did decrease our discretionary spending. We reduced that about 26% this year, or $52,000. So, and we did that in recognition of the, what's going on with COVID and the hurdles that we're going to face going forward. We eliminated all expenditure for travel. We dropped our computer requests down substantially. Part of that is we just got a new round of tablets, and so we're transitioning some of the older tablets to replace some of the older towers that people had used previously. So we'll be more mobile, and that's really been a tremendous help for us, as we have, I think, 33 of our 38 staff working remotely still, and the ability for them to pick up and go and do everything they need to from home has been helped tremendously by using docking stations and the tablets. So that's the two main areas where we reduced costs, was computer going forward and travel for education events.
Scott, remind me, do you have retirements built in this year?
We do. We have 2 retirements that I think, Rob, I'm not sure if we have specific dates on either of them yet, but
we do not.
2 long-term employees that we fully anticipate will retire in the next fiscal year. One of them we thought was going to be gone by now, but we had an unexpected retirement, so he's stayed on to help us through a transition. Otherwise, we'd have been really, really short in our commercial department.
So Scott, you talked about staff vacancy. Are some of those positions still not filled?
Actually, when we did the budget, we had 4 vacant positions. We've since had another vacancy occur. So we have 5 right now. I believe we have 2 appraiser apprentices, 2 appraisers, and 1 land record tech, which is one of our entry level, if you will, clerk positions. And I will mention that we've held off on filling those with all the chaos going on between our remodel and our lack of space and what's going on with COVID and everybody working remotely. We haven't even begun to attempt to fill those positions. And on the appraisal side, I know that they're completely restructuring how our appraisal side is staffed. And there's some, Rob and Derek have been working with personnel on modifying the entire structure of our appraisal staff. So it didn't make any sense to just, we lose a senior commercial appraiser to go hire a senior commercial appraiser when the whole structure is going to be changing in the short term.
Right. Yeah. I mean, no doubt. I mean, I didn't know how many more people you could get in Rob's office back there or not. So.
Well, there's
if
nobody
anybody's been back
there.
Nobody would want to be back there right now.
Just a quick follow-up on what Scott said. Thursday, we will be meeting with Personnel Policy Board to implement the rewriting of our appraisal positions. And that then will be what we'll be utilizing through the future as far as hiring, and we'll transition existing people into new positions at that time.
Okay. Scott, let's jump over to the technology fund that you've got and just kind of remind us what you've kind of got built in for that.
Essentially, what we've done is we fund our software vendors for the Orion for the assessor side of the office and Eagle Recorder for the registered deed side. And in essence, that's we do have some minimal of the small portion of the IS charges we attribute to the tech fund that's related to our registered deed staffing. But that's the main components. All of our Orion and our Eagle Recorder software costs. So I think we're at about $230,000 in total on that.
Okay. Last thing that I just want to mention, you probably heard me mention it to Brad, is just kind of reminding everybody, the HR payroll, it's going to be happening here. It's going to be, we're going to be doing training pretty much monthly once these modules get going. So we're still trying to figure out, how the whole training thing works, so that we can get it out to all the employees. But we're these next 4 or 5 months are going to have a lot of training for the employees as we're going through.
We will be prepared for that.
Okay. Rob, one more thing for you before I start talking BOE stuff. Talk to us about your plan for next year.
Our plan for next year is to be real flexible between now and then, because with COVID, I'm really watching how it's affecting the market. Typically, if we wouldn't have COVID involved, I would say would probably have all new values in residential for next year. However, I'm not willing to say that at this time. We'll see how it goes through the summer, and then I'll be able to give you more of a feeling at that point to where we're at. But I wouldn't be surprised if we see some sort of adjustment upward based on market for a majority of the residential properties, but I can't say that for certain at this time.
And just fundamentally,
Okay.
Rob, that's because what our values will represent is their market value as of the upcoming January 1. So we're looking at activity going on to try and see what the trends are, to see what impact that has on values in the future.
Okay.
So we'll have a little bit more market data by the time we have to make that call.
And just to kind of let you guys know, and then you can kind of let me know somewhere down the road. I'm kind of on some of my BOE numbers, I've kind of tried to push it for residential. So the one thing that I'll remind the board is BOE's years crisscross over the fiscal year. So all the referee stuff that's going to be happening this year is based off of what's happening now. And then if we do a residential, those referees don't actually take place until fiscal year 22. So I've tried to combine a little bit of both of those, but right now I'm trying to move forward with a residential happening, but we can always adjust based on what you guys do.
And I would suggest that's a good thought to do it that way, because if the only thing that would happen is we do less rather than more. So it's easier to deduct and then to add, I think.
Okay. Okay. So Rob and Scott, hey, thanks for hopping on with us this morning. I'm going to just talk BOE stuff a little bit. And as you can kind of see from the chart that's up there, you'll see BOE kind of fluctuates based off of, what's actually happening. So, the way I've built my numbers is taking into effect what's happening for this summer for hearings and stuff, as well as projecting out if we've got to mail out, let's say $100,000 or 100,000 pieces of mailings. I'm taking that into effect for the next year also. So that's how I've kind of built BOE, and I'll kind of leave it here until Rob tells me one way or the other that something needs to be adjusted. County Board, questions on BOE stuff, on just the whole thought process behind it?
No, I don't have any questions for you, Dennis. Anybody else?
No.
Okay. So that's kind of, when you see the numbers, it's down about 20% based off of last year. So I'm starting with right around $359,000. So we'll kind of start it here and then see where it goes from here as we go the next few months. We'll see if anything's change Rob's thoughts one way or the other, or this is how we'll kind of move with it. If you don't have any more questions, those are kind of what we needed to get through today. Pam will be coming on Thursday so that we can just kind of wrap up a couple things with her. And then next week, then we'll have budget hearings. I think for the next 2 weeks, we'll do budget hearings both Tuesday and Thursday, and then we'll be done.
Dennis, do you want to make any predictions with regards to year-end cash balances as we enter June?
I don't want to make any predictions right now. You know, on the additional appropriation side, we're moving a lot more than we have before. So that makes me think a little bit on, does this drive our balance down or not? So I'm not willing to go out on the limb yet. The one thing that I will ask you is, I was talking with Brandon from the city, and the city's numbers will come out around June 15th or so. I think we talked earlier in the year on usually the first year of their 2-year budget cycle, we usually try to have those department heads come in and talk about it, you know, like with HR, planning, health department. Do you still want to hear from them, you know, sometime around the end of June?
I would.
Yeah, I would. Yep.
Okay. So once I find out a little bit more on that, I think there's usually about 6 to 8 of them that, and you know, with the city's budget right now too, with what they're dealing with, it'll be kind of interesting to see what kind of effects those are having on those budgets that we deal with also.
Yeah, I think it's important that we understand the impact of the loss of sales tax and some of that, because that will affect the entire operations.
Totally agree. So I think I was just looking here. Our last hearings are the 18th. So we'll be kind of wrapping up. Then I think the mayor's numbers will come out. So then we'll be able to have discussions with those city department heads then.
Sounds good.
Other than that, that's all I've got.
Very good.
Move we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second for adjournment. Is there any discussion? Please call the roll.
Krista,
Yes.
Deb,
Yes.
Roma,
Yes.
Rick,
Yes.
and Sean.
Yes.
We are adjourned.
Okay.
Very good.
You.
Thank you
Everyone will
much.
talk to you on Thursday.
Thursday it is. Monet, are there things I need to come down and sign?
Yes, paper and